Sea of Thieves recently released their latest podcast, where the developers quite openly discussed what they got wrong in 2023 and how they plan to adjust things moving forward. Combined with some rather revealing tweets from Mike Chapman over the past few weeks, we can now start putting together what's next for Sea of Thieves and the year ahead, as we rapidly approach the start of 2024 and the 6th year for Sea of Thieves. Hello pirates, my name is Ellie and I post regular Sea of Thieves videos on this channel. If you want to stay up to date with the game, then remember to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I put out a new video. We also have a Discord of Sea of Thieves players, so if you want to talk about the game with a group of relaxed players, then feel free to join us. The link is on screen and in the comments. The festive edition of the Sea of Thieves podcast was released yesterday, and whilst it was pretty light on any major release details, it did give us some good insight into what's to come over the next year. Starting with the confirmed release window for Season 11, Mike Chapman and Joe Neate both confirmed that the release date for Season 11 does fall in January, so it's really not that long at all until a whole host of new content will be making its way to the game. The in-game counter says 7 weeks currently, which falls at the beginning of February, so I would hazard a guess that we're talking at the very end of January for a release here. One of the topics discussed quite heavily was how they feel they got some things wrong in 2023, namely the balance between sandbox updates and system updates. I think as a community we can all agree that there have been a lot of updates lately, or at least for the last year or so, that focused heavily on system changes rather than actual content updates in the form of new things to do, and Rare have really acknowledged that perhaps that wasn't the best approach. They also discussed how going forward, if they have any system changes on the scale of captaincy or guilds, for example, in the future they're not likely to tie them into the seasonal release structure. I think this is mainly due to the issues that surrounded the guilds update and what obviously caused the delays to Season 10 releasing. In the future, they don't want to have that delay if a larger systematic update needs more time. They said they want to return to a more regular schedule of updates with seasons. Joe Neate also talked at length about the process of making and maintaining a live service game, and he discussed how this end-of-year period for them is always a great time for reflection on the previous year, and how it's probably one of the only times they get to properly recourse the ship, so to speak, and really stop and listen to the community and what the issues facing us players are. Talking about releasing new features into a fast-moving river and how that can be extremely difficult, Joe Neate also said that they admit they haven't been as quick as they would have liked to have been to get back to the core focus of hot topics that are affecting the community and players on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, they mention HitReg as a good example of this. It's not that it's been ignored over the last year, but they were essentially saying that they agree that they were a bit too slow over the previous years to get back to speaking directly to the community in the style of the Joe Neate and his whiteboard updates. They have said they feel that Drew Stevens has taken on that role through the news video spotlight segments, where they can take these hot topics and really address them and speak to the community that way, making their stances on exploits, issues and day-to-day running of the game well known, and keep that dialogue with the community open. I think regardless of the decisions being made, we can all agree that the openness and transparency coming from Rare lately is something we all enjoy, especially with the segments from Drew in the news videos. It's nice to hear that their focus is back to working hard on keeping that dialogue and transparency with the community. So the big takeaway from the podcast was that the devs are aware and agree that they didn't get things quite right in 2023, and that whilst they're immensely proud of the updates they did deliver, and by the way they should be, Monkey Island alone was and is an incredible update. Guilds, Skull of Siren Song, hell even the Chest of Fortune edition were and are all fantastic additions to the game, all completely for free as well. They do, however, seem to agree that their focus on system changes over sandbox changes was a mistake, and going into 2024, they certainly have a very strong renewed focus on sandbox updates and content additions for players to experience. When discussing the actual feature set for Season 11 specifically, they didn't go into a huge amount of detail, but they did offer some insight. They heavily suggested that this update is yet another foundational update, perhaps not on the level of captaincy or guilds, but it will apparently change the way that we play, And interestingly, Joe Neate did mention shorter game sessions and mentioned how really Sea of Thieves can be a bit of a slog of a game. You can't just pop on for an hour, it's a whole evening or there's no point. This was mentioned when talking about Season 11 specifically, and so if you add to this that we know from a tweet back in November that special time-limited voyages are being removed from our inventories, there may be an overhaul to the whole voyage system, and how we play is one of the things slated for Season 11. The story and lore was also discussed, namely Flameheart, and that he will be making his return, finally. They didn't go into detail about when he'll return or how he'll return, but they did say he will return and that he is on his way. They said that, and I quote, "You don't just do one update for Flameheart." And so I expect we will see a lot of story beats throughout the year with a focus on Flameheart, and let's be honest, it's well overdue at this point. When they confirmed again that there'll be no orb stream this year, they did reiterate that we should keep an eye on the orb in-game that's at Reaper's Hideout, for those that don't know, for potential teasers and information as to what Flameheart is doing in the run-up to his return. This really had me interested, and I wonder if they are, with this renewed focus, returning to the days of old where they updated things in the game with teasers and changes that the community spot and discuss, rather than revealing things on a live stream. I know among our community we have players who really dislike the focus of everything being on Twitter and social media and Twitch these days. So if the story side of things could just be kept in-game, then that would be a fantastic change. They did confirm that Flameheart will be a strong presence throughout 2024 and essentially said that from Season 12 onwards, we can expect to focus on sandbox additions and Flameheart's story. All in all, I think it's safe to say that Rare have missed the mark a little bit this past year when it comes to updates for Sea of Thieves, and I think whilst it's easy to sit here and complain about the mistakes that were made, it's far more exciting to focus on what's to come. Having the development team essentially openly admit that they made some mistakes and that they're aware of them is a big deal, and I think it can only mean good things for the game going forward. With that in mind, let's try and be positive about the game and the year ahead. What would you like to see added to the game in 2024? Are you looking forward to finally the return of Flameheart? Let me know down in the comments. If you like the video, then please do leave a like and subscribe for more Sea of Thieves content. Don't forget to join our Discord too, the link is on screen and in the comments. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the seas!